start with who is Owl? For those that don't know, and can you sort of like introduce the band?
Well, Owl's kind of a band that was born of Dan Dinsmore, my childhood friend. You know, we were in our earliest bands in high school and in New York there. And Jason Mazilis, one of my great friends here in LA. And I was basically writing all these different songs and kind of was coming up with a vision for the band. And I really wanted it to be a real band. I didn't want it to be a project. You know,
Right.
A lot of people are like, oh, what's your project like? And I'm like, it's not really just a project. I mean, these are the guys in the band that's been there for a while, and they're longtime friends of mine. So
Project sounds more like something you make out of paper mache anyway.
yeah, it sounds like very temporary. And to me, this is like something that's been ongoing, and you know, it's born out of me being my own singer-songwriter as well, and having my own kind of style on the bass, especially, is like another thing. I really don't get to express myself fully unless I created this kind of band where I'm playing upright bass. I'm doing different kinds of, you know, we have different kinds of music coming out of us that's like, I would say it's not the norm. You know, it's a little off the beaten path, and we're proud of that kind of stuff.
You couldn't handle that. Yeah, you're tripping. You can't trust yourself. Tripping over lies. Overnight.
See, I love that stuff because actually my next question is being a fan of some of the old school trios myself, I find it exceptional that you guys are a trio. I was always amazed at the sounds that three musicians could do, like early Rush. That stuff blew me away. Do you find the creative process more wide open with a trio?
Well, you know, with a trio, you definitely have to cover your space more. And, you know, in the studio, we do what we do. There might be layers and stuff. But, you know, the essence of the song there as a trio lies. And that's the fun in having that. You know, the bass covers ground, the guitar covers ground, and drums cover ground, and there's harmonies. So that's the fun of the whole thing, I think. You know?
Played with Jerry Cantrell quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I used to be in his solo band, and we lived together for a couple of years, and we did a lot of work together. We also did Ozzy's records and Undercover, Prince of Darkness, and yeah, we spent a lot of time together. I did a lot of Alice in Chains songs with Jerry, where I would sing harmonies and stuff like that, and that was a great experience.
Yeah, man, anybody that likes that stuff is going to love this album. I mean, just I've listened to the whole thing. So, knowing the answer to this, but I like the story, can you talk about why you went with an upright bass and all that you do with the sound?
Well, my main thing is I picked up the upright bass because I went, you know, my parents were like, well, I guess you're going to college now. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And they're like, well, it's probably going to be music. At that point, I grew up in Queens, and then we moved upstate for like high school years. That's where I met Dan and all that, and it just became part of my world that you know, I realized I was going to go to school for classical bass, and that's kind of where it all started. I was like, wow, I was pretty accomplished as a bassist already. Like, as a young teenager, I got in a lot of write-ups, like Mike Barney, famous column and guitar player, wrote about me in the Spotlight column and stuff like that. So I took the electric bass, the bass guitar, pretty far.
Yeah.
And it was like the next logical step to like play with the bow, you know, take it to another level. But I did it in a rock and roll way, even though I went to school for.
Now, the new album it's on CD and vinyl. Vinyl seems to be making a comeback, thankfully. Great album. Opens with a killer version of Destroyer is the first song. I think I used to be able to play that in my sleep back in the day. What made you decide on remaking that one?
Well, it was our drummer Dan Dinsmore's idea. He was a big Kings fan, and we're all Kings fans. It's a great band, of course. But I was a little hesitant because I was like, you know, if you read the lyrics and so on, I was kind of like, wow, this is pretty quirky for us. You know, it's sort of a mystical tip we're on.
Right.
And But it was really like something was like in Dan. He's like, no, we got to do this. We got to do this. And I was like, I don't know. So when we first did it, I was kind of just doing it to placate Dan, to be honest with you, because he wouldn't stop about it. And to my surprise, it came out like, it came out like an Owl song. It was really cool.
The Right Thing song and the video. It's got a great raw sound to it. Can you talk about writing that one?
Well, for me, that song was just kind of something I was tossing around, and I had like the bass line and like a basic vocal, and I loved the little part just kept, in my head, and that's usually a song I'll always finish, and it just kept saying like to myself, like, you couldn't handle it, you're tripping, can't trust yourself, tripping over lies, and then the power trip part in the middle where I'm screaming, and are you doing the right thing? And sort of the repetitiveness was very cool because it kind of felt like a different question, even though it was the same question every time. And so I got really into the character of someone being sort of on the edge and writing from that standpoint and how that feels, like that internal struggle or the internal struggle, with your decision making for yourself. And then there's also, I would tap into like relationship stuff too, like, are you doing the right thing in your relationship? So emotionally, there was a lot for me to sort of dig in on vocally there.
Right.
And it's pretty heavy. I mean, like, that's the thing about us. We'll almost skip over being heavy metal sounding and go right to the hardcore bits because we're not really a metal band. We're more of an alternative. I don't know what, labels are tough these days, but I would say we're not really metal. So that song like has some really heavy things in it, and that stuff's a blast to play that kind of screaming bit and everything, and playing it with the guys live has been just super explosive, and people are really digging it. So.
Oh, it's a good tune, man. Actually, every song on this thing has its own story. And I mean, you got marching, almost like marching drums with bagpipes on Rover. But it's got that serious rock part to it in the end, and I haven't heard anybody use a slide on their finger on a guitar solo in I don't know how long, but that's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's just, we don't have these kind of rules, like, where bands these days seem to have like a certain sound on a song, and then they write a whole record that sounds like that song.
Exactly.
And and that's kind of really disappointing for someone like me because I grew up with like the Zepp and the Sabbath and the bands that really showed you that, hey, we're Sabbath, we'll do a little classical bit. Hey, we're Sabbath, we're going to do a song, a very major, upbeat kind of song. Oh, we're Sabbath, we're going to write a super dark song. There was no Led Zeppelin. They showed us that they would just go to places, and they still maintained who they were. It wasn't like, oh, Led Zeppelin, who is this? Doesn't even sound like them. You always knew it was them. So I don't think that should be a problem. I think people need it these days.
Yeah, man, no doubt. You and I grew up in listening to the same stuff, obviously, because I feel the same way about music these days. It's just, there's too much.
Yeah, it sounds like it. We kind of had similar things.
Was it hard to plan this project between, around the cult and everything else that you do? I mean, are you overstretched or?
Well, the cult has breaks, and you would kill yourself just touring 24/7 all year. And we did a big run last year for Choice of Weapon, and that record did well. It charted on Billboard all over the world, and one of my favorite cult albums, and that had its cycle. So when it was break time and everyone kind of needed to recoup, and we were putting together, things in our own lives, it for me, it's always music again. And so I like the steady musical course in my life. I like that a lot.
Sounds good.
So then it's going to be cult time. So I'm just going to do my best to, plan and schedule all this stuff. The cult's going to have breaks again, so I'll just continue to do it, and that's how it's been.
All right.
And it's been pretty enjoyable. It's been more enjoyable than stressful.
Oh, well, that's always a gift.
Yeah, because it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and but I don't mind that kind of work. It's a lot of fun for me.
It's what you do, man. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, lastly, thanks for talking to me today. And the standard ending, what would you like to say to the fans?
What would I like to say to the fans?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, you know, get out there and do the right thing and check out our new record. And it's been a real pleasure to play for everybody and meet people out there. It's always a surprise how many people know about this, you know, because we're relatively a newish band still. So it's really exciting for me to get out there. And even when I'm out there with the Cult, it's just awesome how many people know about my music and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to meeting more people out there.
All right, cool.
I see you driving by.